It just blows my mind how people just look to man for a savior. There is only one fix for the problems that we are still seeing today, and that is Him. We need to turn from that idea and turn back to the only one that's truly righteous, the only one that can ever lead from a throne of absolute truth. And that's what's required, because as long as men are involved, there is always going to be tyranny. There is always going to be corruption, because it comes with the territory of men. It finds its way in every time. And as far as I'm concerned, this last example is the perfect time to break away from this old way of thinking. Because if there was anybody, at least that I thought, was going to step in to this so-called swamp and drain it and fix things, it was this guy. But as we can see, instead of, going in there as a dragon with fire in his mouth and burning it all down, no, he went in and he became a chameleon and just blended right in with the rest of them. Everybody that's in these positions of leadership, it's important that we, operate from this place of virtue. Morning. So on the home stretch here, nearing the end, we are now only 3 short chapters away from the end of the book of Proverbs. And with that, the end to this series of Proving Proverbs. As we dive back in here this week with chapter 29, which is another banger of a chapter, I might add. But I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to this new concept that I haven't shared yet. And being that there's only 3 weeks left in this first season of Proving Proverbs, I wanted to kind of throw out the idea here over the next couple weeks to get people familiar with it, to understand the direction that I plan to go here with this in the future, and just to talk about, some things that hopefully people will find interest in here moving forward. And, when I started this thing, it was just really, I personally wanted to jump into the book of Proverbs and to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and to really try to apply its wisdom to my life. And that's really what the whole concept was initially about. And I was hoping that as I did this myself, if I recorded it and put the videos out there, that others would also be interested in that same journey, and, to create an environment for people to unite in this idea and to come together as a community to try and implement some of these wise lessons and these precepts into our daily life. Because like I've said over and over, this book is timeless, and the wisdom that's found within it is also timeless, and it still very much applies today. And I think that if we can implement these things into our life, that it can really help us to stay on the correct path, the path that our Creator intended for His people to be on. And I think that when we are on that path and we remain on that path through this life, that it's clear in these scriptures that what we will experience is blessings. And so, not sure about you, but I am all about those blessings, and I very much believe in that. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started out. And in the beginning, I kind of didn't really have any direction other than that. And so just started rolling with it, but once I hit like the halfway point, I started to really think about this thing, and I could see the true value in it and the enormous potential that I feel like it has to offer. And so I started to kick around ideas, around that time, and I've been brainstorming those ideas ever since. And here a few weeks ago, I started to play with the idea of bringing in a companion journal that would really help with the progression through each week of Proving Proverbs. And the more I got to thinking about that and understanding how I could utilize it in my own life and how beneficial it would be, I started to really, fine tune it and to think of it more as not only a companion, but also a reference to where I was at, where I am currently at, and where I'm going. And, again, as I started to put all these ideas together, what I began to see is something that I think is really great. And I think it has a lot of potential. And I'm really hoping that people will be interested in it, because I think it's a great idea. And I really think that we need to get back to these words of wisdom and living by them. And I think that what we see going on in the world and in our society here in America is a testament to the fact that we have left the path, and we are very far away from what I believe to be the intended lifestyle from the Creator. And I'm not sure, how everybody else feels about it, but I would rather stay as close to that natural environment and that natural path through life as possible, and as far away from this synthetic world that's being created around us as possible. And so, again, I'm not going to get into all the details of it here, but I just kind of wanted to throw it out and introduce you to the idea. This is something that I have been working on in the background the last few weeks, but I have been really tied up with other things here, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to dedicate to it. But my thought is to just kind of introduce the concept over the next 3 weeks, to talk about it a little bit more in the direction that I see this headed, and then hopefully by the time we get to the end of this thing, I'll be able to talk more in detail about what this is actually going to look like for those that are interested. And that's, I think, the best way to proceed here, because I don't want to bog this down with all of this. But I understand that we only got 3 more weeks here, and so I just kind of wanted to get people acquainted with this idea and hopefully drum up some interest. And my plan is that when we are finished here with this first season of the Proving Proverbs series, that I can take all this knowledge that's been gained over these 30, 31, 32 weeks, and to compile it into this idea. And hopefully not long after this season comes to an end, I can introduce you to the actual product, because that's what it'll be. It'll be a companion product. It's more than just a journal. Like I said, we'll get into more of the details, but I really think that there's something powerful here in that, and hopefully you will agree with that. Anyway, enough about that. Chapter 29. Like I said, this is another banger of a chapter, and like always, we try to pull just one word or one characteristic, one concept to take away for the week, to try and focus on and put our attention to and to implement. And this week, that that idea is righteous rulers and the rule of rulers, because back in the biblical times, this is what that was considered, right? These people that are in these positions were considered to be the rulers. But at some point along the line, that's no longer politically correct. So now what we have is leaders. But you can bet that these leaders are still your rulers. Just because they changed the title doesn't mean that in the background, the dynamics of how this whole thing works has changed, because it hasn't. These leaders, the people in these leadership roles, are the people that are actively making decisions on your behalf that affect every aspect of your life. And so in that way, these people are the rulers. And I'm not sure, the position that everybody has, their take on this current condition of the leadership, at least here in this country, America. But personally, I am far from impressed. And not too many good things to say about it. And it's not just with this administration. Don't think that I'm just here to pick on this administration. This has been going on for a very long time, and nothing new here. New faces every 4 to 8 years, but the agenda has continued to push forward seamlessly since the inception, okay? Or since some point, decades and decades and decades ago. And so that's what we have, these rulers over us. And in chapter 29 here, we see the importance of these rulers and the actual role that they play, and what it can look like if you have good rulers, good leadership, and what it can look like if you have bad rulers and bad leadership. And in terms of the scriptures, what we're talking about here is righteous rulers, righteous leaders versus unrighteous rulers and unrighteous leaders. And I think that it's pretty safe to say that what we have at the top of this system operating, above us today are unrighteous rulers. And the effects of that are profound as they trickle down through the masses. Because again, everything that's happening at that level in one way or another has an effect on each one of us. And that's why this role of ruler or leadership plays such an important role in society. And, we see back, in these times, the importance and what good, honest, virtuous, righteous leadership can look like. But we also see the opposite of that in many cases as well. And, this is how this thing has continued to play out ever since the time of kings, right? Because we can take it the whole way back to that point when, those who are in covenant with this creator God, the Most High, the one and only true God, they had a direct connection with this God, right? And it was this God that was literally the head, the ruler, the leader over this people. But, these people, as they were often referenced all through the scriptures, were rough-necked people. And, just constantly doing stupid things. And, as a result, reaping the consequences, which are defined all through the scriptures as curses, because that's ultimately what happens when we don't follow the clear instruction of the Most High, that we are walking directly into curses. And this is what these people did over and over again. And ironically, it looks no different here today, as we can step outside of the box and look in on the situation and see the exact same thing still happening today. And that's because that connection that was once had with this creator God wasn't good enough. And these hard-necked, rough-necked people wanted to have a king over them. They wanted to have a ruler over them, someone that they could look to, as the authority, and to, provide security and all these things, right? That mankind, that this people that were in covenant with this God felt that was lacking in this connection with, the unseen God, right? They wanted something tangible. They wanted leadership that they could walk up to and complain to, I guess you could say. And, after this went on for so long, he finally gave it to him. And that's what we see begin and roll through the book of Kings, where, he gives them what they want, and they start setting up human rulers. And you can see that immediately, as soon as human rulers step in and take over that role of authority, that immediately corruption comes in right along with it. And that's because it's in our human nature, right? I mean, these desires for power and authority and control and all these things, this is a part of the human condition, the human nature. And if you are not walking in truth, okay, then you are overtaken by these interesting desires, and that's what we see in all the different rulers, just absolute corruption and tyranny. And I think it's safe to say that nothing's changed. And it just blows my mind how people just look to man for a savior. Everybody thought it was going to be Trump. Everybody thought it was this administration that was going to come in and save the day. And this guy, he was just going to fix it all. Well, we see what that looks like. And hopefully people understand that this is what we get when we put our trust in men. And that's what they saw back then as well. And that was the curse. That was the lesson that Yahweh taught them in setting up their first ruler. Here you go. You wanted it, you have it, right? It's your bed, you lay in it. And so this is how this works. This is tough love. And the only way you can learn is through these lessons, right? And again, we are still dealing with that same stuff here today. Same lessons, same hard lessons. And I'm just wondering when people are going to wake up to the idea that there is no one out there that's going to save the day. There is no one out there that can be elected into the highest, authority in the land, and it's going to fix this mess that we are currently in. No, that's never going to happen. There is only one fix for the problems that we are still seeing today. And that is him. And that is where we all need to come to this conclusion and this understanding that as long as we continue to put all of our hope and our faith into men, we're going to continue to deal with these same struggles and these same hardships until we figured out that we need to turn from that idea and turn back to the only one that's truly righteous, the only one that can ever lead from a throne of absolute truth. And that's what's required. Because as long as men are involved, there is always going to be tyranny. There is always going to be corruption because it comes with the territory of men. It finds its way in every time. And as far as I'm concerned, this last example is the perfect time to break away from this old way of thinking. Because if there was anybody, at least that I thought, was going to step in to this so-called swamp and drain it and fix things, it was this guy. But as we can see, instead of, going in there as a dragon with fire in his mouth and burning it all down, no, he went in and he became a chameleon and just blended right in with the rest of them. And that's how this goes. And so until we turn back to the only righteous king, right? The only true righteous king, this is what we're going to deal with. And again, I mean, there are so many things happening on the world stage right now. The righteous versus unrighteous leadership in this time is, I mean, it's always been important. It's always obviously been important. But these times that we are in right now are like any other times ever, with the technology and all the things that are honestly weapons of mass destruction that are just all around us here today. The requirement for righteous rulers is absolute. There's no wiggle room here when it comes to this. And, what we can witness when it's the opposite of that is just absolute destruction. And I think that we better get this figured out here soon. And we will see that here in chapter 29. So let's dive in. The man often rebuked, but stubborn still, suddenly, irretrievably, his fall will come. When virtuous men are in power, the people are joyful. When the wicked rule, the people groan. The lover of wisdom makes his father glad, but the patron of harlots fritters his wealth away. A king gives country stability by justice, an extortioner brings it to ruin. The man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet. Under the feet of the wicked man there is a snare, but the virtuous run on rejoicing. The virtuous man is concerned for the rights of the poor. The wicked knows no such concern. Scoffers set cities in a ferment, but wise men moderate anger. Let a wise man argue with a fool. Be he angry or good-humored, he will not gain his end. Men of blood hate the blameless man, but honest men cherish his life. The fool comes out with all his angry feelings, but the wise man subdues and restrains them. When a ruler listens to false reports, all his ministers will be scoundrels. Poor man and usury are found together. Yahweh gives light to the eyes of both. The king who judges the poor with equity sees his throne set firm forever. The stick and the reprimand bestow wisdom. A child left to himself brings shame on his mother. When the wicked are in power, sin multiplies, but the virtuous shall witness their downfall. Correct your son, and he will give you peace of mind. He will delight your soul. Where there is no vision, the people get out of hand. Blessed are they who keep this precept, this Torah. Not by words is a slave corrected. Even if he understands, he will take no notice. You see some men too ready for speech, more hope for a fool than for him. If a man's slave is pampered from childhood, he will prove ungrateful in the end. A bad-tempered man provokes disputes. A man prone to anger is a great cause of sin. A man's pride brings him humiliation. He who humbles himself will win honor. Complicity with thieves and their wrong to oneself, to hear the curse and make no disclosure. To be afraid of men is a snare. He who puts his trust in Yahweh is secure. Many a man seeks a ruler's favor, but the rights of each come from Yahweh. Abhorrent to the virtuous is the sinful man. Abhorrent to the wicked is the man of honor. This chapter speaks so loudly, I feel like, to what was previously discussed and where we are currently at in time here. I think that this is exactly what's on display today. And we really see this idea of this idea of the leadership. When a ruler listens to false reports, all his ministers will be scoundrels. Yeah, that's exactly what we see today, if you haven't noticed, with all these war hawks and these people just in his ear constantly trying to drum up more of this war, and this is what happens when you have that type of counsel in your ear. You are going to make bad decisions. And so that's the importance of turning and plugging in to the correct source, especially when you are in a position of power and leadership. What would do him good is to turn away from all these advisors that are in his ear and turn to the Most High and plug into that source. And I think it changed the game. But unfortunately, that's not how things operate here today. And I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but the thing is here, with this idea of unrighteous rulers, right? Bad, corrupt, tyrannical rulership. We also see a glimpse into what virtue looks like and what a virtuous king can look like, and how great life can be for those underneath the rule of a virtuous king or a virtuous ruler, right? And when it is that leadership is operating by pure virtue, well, then what ends up trickling down through the masses is all positive frequency, positive vibration. It changes the dynamic of the complete environment that we are in. But I mean, we know what this book says. If you are familiar with it, you know what it says. You know where things are headed, and you know also what is the hope and what time will eventually come. Because there will come a time when we are led by that pure, righteous leadership, the true king. And when we are in that time, and honestly, as optimistic as I would like to try to be, being realistic at the same time, I feel like that's the only time where we will experience that type of true wealth, true happiness, true prosperity, all these things. That's the only time that will truly exist. Because as long as things are the way they are, I don't see much changing, unfortunately. But this idea of virtue, we have, virtue as kind of like this North Star, right? This bright light that's the compass for us all. I mean, everybody plays a role in one way or another in leadership. And it's not just, the president, right? I mean, there's levels to this thing, and there's leadership at every level. And so this is where it's important that we all understand this, because, there are many people out there in these positions of leadership. And it's very important to operate from that place of leadership with this thing, virtue. Because with leadership comes great responsibility. And when you have people underneath you that are looking to you for such leadership, it's very important that we get plugged in to the right place, right? This place of virtue. And that's where, again, the book of Proverbs can really help keep us on that path, because we see it on display over and over, every chapter, every week here. It's there, this dualism between, the righteous and the unrighteous, the wise and the foolish, the blessings and the curses. It's this dualism that's in everything. And so for everybody that's in these positions of leadership, it's important that we, operate from this place of virtue. And we are about out of time, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Could say a lot more, another great chapter. And again, this is why Proving Proverbs, there's something here, folks, something powerful. And hopefully you will continue to join me on this ride as we continue our journey through the book of Proverbs, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And until next Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, I'm Brad Casper. We are